In 1805, Captain Meriwether Lewis and Second Lieutenant William Clark, leading a small party of enlisted men and civilians, became the first U.S. citizens to reach the Oregon coast. Following the Columbia River, after an arduous 2-year journey, they would eventually reach the Pacific coast in November of 1805 near modern-day Astoria, Oregon. Charged by President Thomas Jefferson with the task of exploring the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase, they were only the first in a long line of Westerners that would be captivated by the Pacific Northwest's stunning natural beauty. The Oregon coast is unique in being home to the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes of anywhere in North America. Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area comprises of 7,000 acres of sand dunes, some of them rising over 500 feet above sea level. Following the rugged Pacific coast north, the Olympic Peninsula in the state of Washington encompasses the northwesternmost point in the contiguous United States. Isolated from the rest of Washington by the Strait of Juan de Fuca in the north and Hood Canal to the east, this mysterious and remote coastal region remained largely unmapped until the early 1900s. The Olympic Peninsula's one-of-a-kind geography boasts an impressive array of environments, from snow-capped mountains to rocky shoreline to otherworldly temperate rainforests. The park is named after the mighty Olympic mountain range, the highest of which, Mount Olympus, seen here from Hurricane Ridge, is home to 8 distinct glaciers. As we descend from the lofty mountain peaks, runoff water from the glaciers forms rivers that provide life to an entirely different ecosystem. The Hoh rainforest is one of the largest temperate rainforests in the United States, receiving more than 140 inches of annual rainfall, coupled with mild temperatures, makes the area the perfect habitat to support some of North America's largest species of trees. And on the shady forest floor, mosses and lichens blanket nearly every surface, serving to break down dead and decaying plant matter and make way for new life. Fully grown Rocky Mountain elk can weigh between 600 and 800 pounds and stand 5 feet tall at the shoulder. A majority of the elk in Washington state today are the descendants of elk herds from Yellowstone National Park that were relocated in the early 1900s. As spring arrives, the elk migrate to higher elevations to graze, like here in the lush SNOQUALMIE Valley. For the SNOQUALMIE people, who have lived in this valley for thousands of years, the Falls is considered the place where the first human beings were created. Mount Rainier, also known as Tacoma, is Washington's highest peak. Its summit, over 14,000 feet high, is home to 26 major glaciers, the most of any mountain in the lower 48 states. Part of the Great Pacific Ring of Fire, this active stratovolcano lies only 60 miles from downtown Seattle. And due to its extremely high probability of eruption in the near future, it is considered by many to be one of the most dangerous volcanoes on Earth. It is the highest mountain in the Cascade Range that spans from Northern California into British Columbia. One of the most iconic members of the Cascades Range, Crater Lake fills the caldera left over from the eruption of a massive shield volcano over 7,000 years ago. At nearly 2,000 feet deep, it is the deepest lake in the United States. And because no rivers or streams flow in or out of the crater, its waters are some of the purest on Earth. Near the foothills of the southernmost Cascade Mountains, Northern California is home to the Redwood National Forest. An area set aside by the federal and state governments to preserve the threatened habitat of the mighty California redwood, the tallest trees on Earth. Towering nearly 400 feet tall and almost 30 feet in diameter at the base, they are also some of the oldest living things on Earth, with the oldest alive today estimated to be over 2,000 years old. To the east, the stunning Montana Rockies were cut into their present shape by massive glaciers during the last ice age. The crystal clear waters of Lake McDonald form the largest lake in Glacier National Park, at nearly 10 miles long and almost 500 feet deep. Today, Glacier National Park preserves what is known as the crown of the continent. This pristine ecosystem spans over 1 million acres, and together with the Waterton Lakes National Park in Canada, became the world's first international peace park in 1932. Nestled in the very heart of North America, glacial runoff and rainwaters from these frozen mountain peaks flow to the Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic Oceans, forming the headwaters for many major North American rivers, including the Missouri. To the south, near the present-day town of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the Grand Tetons are the youngest of the Rocky Mountains. forming between 6 and 9 million years ago. Near the turn of the 19th century, Mormon settlers began to tame the harsh Jackson Hole Valley using irrigation. Today, Grand Teton National Park protects the remains of some of the early Mormon settlements constructed in the early 1900s. In spring, the elk return to the Grand Teton Valley. These elk, part of the Jackson herd, are members of the largest elk herd in North America, with an estimated population of 11,000. To escape the harsh Wyoming winters, they migrate to the lower elevations seasonally. But when the weather breaks, these nomads can travel as far away as the southern borders of Yellowstone. One of the country's most iconic landscapes, Yellowstone is considered by many historians to be the world's first officially sanctioned national park. Spanning over 3,000 square miles across northwestern Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, this massive, one-of-a-kind ecosystem comprises of lakes, canyons, rivers, and mountain ranges. Not to mention being one of the largest volcanic systems on Earth. Created by a massive subterranean volcano, the park contains more than 10,000 thermal features. It's home to more than half of the world's total active geysers, as well as a dizzying variety of hot springs, mud pots, and steam vents. The striking formations at Mammoth Hot Springs were created over thousands of years as hot water from the spring cooled, depositing layers of calcium carbonate. Research into the colorful, heat-resistant microbes that flourish in the park's thermal areas has led to breakthroughs in the fields of medicine and forensics. In addition to its otherworldly landscapes, visitors to Yellowstone are also treated to the largest concentration of mammals in the lower 48 states. Bison are the largest land mammals in North America, with some males weighing well over a ton. Yellowstone holds the distinction of being the only place in the United States where bison have lived continuously since prehistoric times. Today, these bison are members of America's largest bison population on public land, with nearly 5,000 members. And unlike other herds, this population is able to roam freely over the expansive landscape of Yellowstone and neighboring areas of Montana. Like their ancient ancestors, the Yellowstone bison are constantly migrating in search of new habitat. Researchers believe that it is these ancestral behaviors that enabled the successful restoration of a population that was on the brink of extinction just over a century ago. During Yellowstone's extremely harsh winters, the bison will stay close by the thermal springs to stay warm. For millions of years, the supervolcanic hotspot below the Earth's crust, responsible for the modern-day landscape of Yellowstone, has been slowly making its way across the American Northwest. In central Idaho, the twisted landscape of Craters of the Moon National Monument was sculpted by lava. Spread across over 600 square miles, the area contains the remains of lava flows from 60 distinct eruptions, ranging from 15 to as recently as 2,000 years ago. The most recent eruptions were witnessed by the Shoshone people and incorporated into their symbolic folklore. However, this tumultuous volcanic history is largely responsible for the formation of the massive Snake River Plain. Which today covers nearly a quarter of the state of Idaho. This wide, flat area of land is today home to most of Idaho's major cities, as well as a majority of its agriculture. For nearly 11,000 years, Native Americans have depended on the Snake River as a way of life. During the time of Lewis and Clark, salmon from the Pacific Ocean spawned by the millions in the river and served as a lifeline for the people living downstream of the mighty Shoshone Falls. The climate in this region, in the rain shadow of the Cascades, near the border of Idaho and southern Oregon, is referred to as the high desert. Life here can be extremely harsh. This is the driest part of the region, the ALVORD Desert. Some parts of this dried lake bed receive less than 5 inches of rainfall annually. Despite these harsh conditions, many species of plants and animals thrive in this high desert. Since the era of covered wagons, the Northwest's natural beauty has captivated all those hungry for adventure.